Let's dive into our top story tonight, which is Ukraine. We are entering a dangerous new phase in the war on Ukraine, and specifically peace negotiations, which of course have been shelved, pushed off. We've been pushing for peace, right? We knew that peace was on the table, but was completely sidetracked when Boris Johnson from the UK, at the behest of the United States, flew in to meet with Zelensky and said, no peace negotiations. Now, Ukraine appears to be pushing for total destruction of its country by planning attacks in Crimea, which we will get to in a minute. We're going to get to Crimea in a minute. But first, stunning revelations this afternoon that the United States is committing war crimes. The United States is committing war crimes. Now, you'll say, Clayton, we know this. The United States does this all the time. It's been doing it in country after country after country, right? It did it in Afghanistan. It did it in Iraq. It's done it in Syria. It's been doing it in Ukraine. And we're going to have the stunning revelations this afternoon that the United States committing war crimes inside Ukraine by coordinating and attacking the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Yes, I said the United States. Technically using American-made HIMARS to attack nuclear power plants. Now, I've spoken to NATO sources who've told me specifically, and we've confirmed this with separate military sources, and we've featured this here on the show over the past few months, right? To operate HIMARS, first of all, the United States doesn't trust the Ukrainians to operate them themselves. So we've been essentially operating them. And of course, we're providing all of the intelligence data to make the HIMARS targets effective. And you need to have that massive coordination. And all of that is being carried out in Kiev. Go ahead.
Well, and that's exactly why I still don't understand why people call this a proxy war. This is not a proxy war. We are every bit as involved as Ukraine is.
Yeah, I know. And maybe we should abandon that term, kind of come back to it, because we don't have tens of thousands of Americans who are there literally as infantry on the ground, but still we're running the show. It's American weapons, it's American tax dollars, and Americans calling the shots, the intelligence. We're going to get to the Crimea part of this, which is clearly an American intelligence operation, but specifically on the nuclear power plants. So Scott Ritter explained this to Bradley Wasser today or overnight, and Ritter points out that the Western media has been totally silent on this issue. Listen to him explain and lay this out in perfect detail, how the United States is committing war crimes in Ukraine. Listen.
The other things that emerge from this is the role played by the United States. And I think this is an underappreciated aspect to the story. The initial attack against this facility took place on August 5th, but it was preceded by an August 1st presentation made by its Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, in which he highlighted this facility and he began to create the mythology of Russian irresponsibility, talking about how Russia had turned this facility into a nuclear shield and that Russia was using this facility as a base to carry out attacks against the Ukrainians, knowing that the Ukrainians would never strike back, et cetera. No evidence was provided to sustain this, but what Blinken did is create the beginning of this narrative that says that the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and the territory around it must be removed from Russian control and turned over to international control, which would lead to the Ukrainians taking control. This is what the whole thing is about. So we know that the United States played a role in helping shape this narrative, which was then acted on by a Ukrainian attack. Now, the initial attacks appear to have been done by munitions that are under the control of the Ukrainian army exclusively. But the most recent attack appears to have been undertaken by a HIMARS rocket. And what's important about this is that as the deputy head of Ukrainian intelligence for the Kiev district, and the reason why that's important is the Kiev district, of course, is the region that interfaces most directly with the United States and NATO in terms of intelligence provision and command and control support, et cetera, said that nothing happens with the HIMARS unless it's directed to by the United States. So if a HIMARS was fired by Ukrainians against the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, that means it was done not only with permission and approval of the United States, but the active participation, since the United States provides the targeting intelligence that's used to support HIMARS operations. This means the United States is by proxy attacking Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This is a war crime. It's a war crime of the highest order. And I don't understand why the U.S. government's getting a free pass on this, why the media is being quiet about this.
That's a great
when
question.
do we ever not get a free pass? I mean, we get a free pass on the things, the atrocities we do all over the world. Somehow, we always end up getting a free pass.
And that's why we're covering it here on our show. Now, I wish now we have 10,000 or so people watching us live, and hundreds of thousands more will watch us later. And you know, again, we're small potatoes compared to, you know, when you could have literally the Western media. You could have the Associated Press if it wasn't an extension of the intelligence state in the United States. You could have Reuters if it wasn't an extension of the intelligence state. You could have the BBC if it wasn't an extension of the deep state intelligence state controlling things, covering these stories. And you won't. We showed you we showed you the British missiles that were found, right? We showed you the shelling, the British shell casings, right? We showed you these things at the power plant. Then we showed you, you know, the evidence, of course, of HIMARS attacks on these. And the Western media will not cover it. Where's the Wall Street Journal? Where are any Western journalists covering this story? They're not. They're kept at an arm's length, and Ukraine doesn't want them anywhere nearby. They're kept totally away from these stories. They're kept totally out of the, you know, they're not allowed to go to anywhere near eastern Ukraine. They're not allowed to touch these stories. And these foreign
independent journalists.
I was going to say, these foreign desks, they hand out information to them, and they cover it from New York City. They don't actually go there. You have very few journalists like Eva Bartlett, Vanessa Beeley, Kevork Almasian, Patrick Lancaster, and others who are physically there covering this story. George Alassian, who actually physically see it. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and then what they do is they marginalize those people. They label them conspiracy theorists, and then they end up on kill lists by the Ukrainian government. And so it's like the only information you can really get is from those people on the ground that are actually there reporting stuff, not the people that are here in their office just trying to control a narrative. Because where are they getting their information? Right.
And we had a journalist who was just killed in eastern Ukraine, in Donbass, over the past 24 hours or so, on her way to cover part of the story, and ran over a Ukraine-planted mine. Of course, we've been covering the pedal mines that have been blasted all over the place in the Donbass by the Ukrainian army. And of course, those are a violation of the Ottawa Convention. These mines that have been planted all over the place should have been cleared up. And by the way, the United States actively involved in first of all, the knowledge on the State Department's website, knowledge of these mines, which are a violation of the Geneva Convention. They are a war crime. And yet we are actively funneling money to people that are carrying out known war crimes. And then we ourselves are carrying out war crimes. And the American taxpayers are being lied to. And, you know, last night we did this little dog and pony show where you had President Biden signing this Inflation Reduction Act, which is not going to reduce inflation at all for Americans. It's a total boondoggle for big businesses and the military-industrial complex. It's not going to help Americans at all, but it's okay that we support this charade in Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard talked specifically about this, and she had a comment specifically about, like, first of all, the sanctions, which haven't been working at all, but how this is all part of the plan from the very beginning. This was all part of the plan to develop this new liberal world order, which Joe Biden talked about. Listen to Tulsi.
Now, despite their lectures and their crocodile tears, it's never been about morality. It's not about the people of Ukraine or protecting democracy. This is about regime change in Russia and exploiting this war to strengthen NATO and feed the military-industrial complex. Now, to Joe Biden, it's even about bringing about, quote, a new world order. We've got to lead it, he says. And he's trying to do just that, even if it means bringing us to the brink of nuclear catastrophe.
Yeah. So here's the way you bring us to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. You literally use American HIMARS and fire them at the largest nuclear power plant in all of Europe. And you hope that people won't notice. No wonder you don't want international inspectors to go there and see it. I mean, I can't imagine a bigger story. So, Zero Hedge actually had a really interesting breakdown of the number of what nuclear war would look like and what a nuclear fallout would look like. 5 billion people would die from famine alone. Let's go through this. My screen here. If tensions between Russia and United States spark an all-out nuclear war between the two rivals, more than 5 billion people would die from hunger alone, according to a new study. Scientists at Rutgers University projected, listen to this, the amount of soot that would be thrust into the Earth's atmosphere in a variety of nuclear war scenarios. Variety of nuclear war. So you might say, oh, well, they're not using weapons. It's just a nuclear power plant. No, this is a variety. It doesn't matter, right? It's fissile material. This is what would happen. Between India and Pakistan, they studied this, to a full-blown war between Russia and the United States. A relatively modest Indo-Pakistani war would slash the world's average caloric output by 7% within the first 5 years. Bigger than any disruption humanity has faced thus far, it says. Even for a regional nuclear war, large parts of the world may suffer famine, according to the study's authors. The biggest U.S.-Russian exchange would positively devastate global food production, shrinking it 90% in 3 to 4 years after the explosions cease. 75% of human beings would be dead in 2 years. And they just want to play with this? These guys just want to play with this. In addition to lower crop yields, the Rutgers models attempted to account for export restrictions as well as mitigation efforts such as humans, livestock, feed, and to eat. A devastating picture as the study presents. The ozone layer would be destroyed by heating of the stratosphere, producing more ultraviolet radiation at the surface. So, again, all of these and all of this to say that the United States is playing with fire right now as it considers continuing to attack a nuclear power plant in order to, I don't know what, to provoke what? Again, we know that Ukraine is being used as a playground to test these weapons and to destroy all of Ukraine. That's what's going to happen. We'll have a story that we're going to be covering tomorrow, why a huge swath of of Ukrainian land is now owned, not by Ukrainians, but by United States and multinational corporations. Over almost 2/3 bought up the land. Now, will it be worthless land?
It's another place where they can hide their money, they can hide their things because it's completely outside of U.S. law. That's what I felt all along. I felt like there's a reason those biolabs were there. There's a reason they were hiding it. There's a reason that, like, look at what we did in Afghanistan. That was basically just a cash cow for all of these companies, and they're going to do the same thing now in Ukraine. We're going to be there indefinitely, and we're going to make a bunch of money until we find the next place that we can do it. Once the American people start realizing and ask us to leave and get out of there, stop sending them all this money. But right now, we're at the beginning phase, and how much have we sent already that we have no accounting for? I mean, are we like 200 billion yet? Like, how much is it? It's probably over that.
Oh, and we're seeing these weapons, of course, that are being sold all over the black market. We showed you the video yesterday, the Moscow weapons show, where they have literal American weapons on display showing, hey, don't buy these because these are garbage compared to what we've got. Oh, and we're able to buy them on the black market, so that's why they're featured here at this weapons expo. Like, that's your tax dollars at work flowing right in there. Meanwhile, so I want to talk about Crimea because huge news out of Crimea and this offensive that Vladimir Putin could be mounting any moment now. Now, the last time we saw a large array of forces, we saw the invasion of Ukraine, right? Now, there appears to be a total plan of destruction of its country by planning attacks in Crimea. And this appears to be why President Putin of Russia is saying, no more, I've had enough, and about to launch this massive invasion of Ukraine. So overnight, another round of explosions happening against Russian military installations. So these are Russian military installations here in Crimea. So take a look at your screen. There's a number of them happening. Now, this is really interesting strategy because the United States doesn't want Ukraine to use NATO weapons to attack inside Russia. Okay, follow me on this. But Crimea isn't recognized as Russian by NATO. You follow me? So even though it is, right, Russia annexed Crimea, it is. An overwhelming number of people that lived in this area are happy to be Russian, right? We've shown you the polls. We know that this is the case. So having a NATO-led assault of Crimea gets them off the hook because it's not technically Russian soil. See what I mean? You follow me? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So over the past few days, we've seen these explosions. So, oh, hey, we're not attacking inside of Russia. This is Crimea. We're going, reclaiming our sovereign territory, right? That's the argument. Never mind that the people there are ethnic Russians and don't want to be a part of Ukraine. Forget that piece of it. And forget that this is a violation of the Minsk agreements. Forget that piece as well. So over the past few days,
barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, exactly. So far, we've seen over the past few days a series of explosions hitting Russian ammunition depots, and we've shown you the video here, and aircraft hangars. At first, it appeared that it was because of Russian safety issues, that somehow some of this ammunition, caught fire and then went off, right? That was the initial report last week that, well, it didn't seem like it was anything Ukrainian. Like, how are they launching an attack? And Russians weren't going to be attacking themselves, even though the Western media likes to say that. So then who the hell is this? It must have been a safety problem, and some of this ammunition went off like fireworks, like it was a mistake. Well, now when more and more of these pop up, it's no longer it's not a coincidence anymore that this is not safety concerns. So Russia calls these explosions in Crimea, now they're calling them sabotage. According to the Washington Post, that's exactly what they are. Special forces attacking Russia in Crimea. See, Crimea ammunition depot blast is a work of Ukraine special forces. Now, I don't buy that for a second. I don't think for a second that these are Ukrainian special forces. I mean, maybe they're special forces that were trained by the United States Special Forces with the help of the United States Special Forces that are in there coordinating these sabotage attacks. But the idea that these are Ukrainian special forces totally on their own without any help from anyone and they're just going in and doing this, I don't buy that for a second. And neither should you. So these attacks now being carried out by Ukrainian special forces with the help fully of the United States and NATO to target these munitions depots inside of Crimea. Why do you think suddenly Vladimir Putin is amassing an enormous number of aircraft and vehicles to go into? These are the Russian armed amassing forces here. Let's put this up on the screen. About 430 Russian aircraft, 360 helicopters concentrated around Ukraine. The number of helicopters used by the Russian Federation against Ukraine has significantly increased to the over 360 now, and these are amassing right along the border area now. Not surprising. Provoking the bear. And of course, Zelensky said this was going to happen, right? We want to retake Crimea. This is a message he made to Olaf Scholz of Germany and to Boris Johnson of the UK. In an interview with The Guardian, Mikhail Podolyak, who's an advisor to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, says they plan to destroy the Crimean Bridge. Now, the Crimean Bridge, he says, is a huge mistake because Russia should have never built this large bridge, which is the largest bridge in Europe, by the way. And now we're going to attack it. He says Russia should have never built it, that it's an aid vessel, it's a way to deliver aid and military military pieces, munitions, etc. into Crimea. So we're going to attack the largest bridge. So we need to take it out. It's illegal, so we're going to take it out. So watch that to happen, the Crimean Bridge to be blown up, and then watch these attacks unfolding. Again, military experts we've spoken to believe this is a massive Russian offensive that's about to unfold. So get ready. So any of these HIMARS that are still floating around out there, and any of these leftover American sites that are floating around out there are going to be on the target list. very, very shortly. And by the way, I should mention that Ukraine is now telling its own citizens to get out of Crimea. If there's any Ukrainian citizens in Crimea, to leave. That's a warning. So, and now the United Nations heading to Ukraine as well to try to tamp down some of these tensions. But we've got multiple pieces that are inflaming, that could inflame the world here with this nuclear power plant attack and what happens in Crimea. Because Putin is not going to take that lightly, and we could be looking at a massive buildup of military force in the next few days, if not in the next few hours, actually. So we'll be watching that. I should also point out the Washington Post has this amazing story this afternoon, and I want to pull it up here. Americans are paying for slogans on bombs aimed at Russians. So think about this for a second. Americans are paying for slogans to be written on bombs that are being aimed at Russians. Now, what is this story about? And this is just an example, right? And they're putting these up on GoFundMe pages. And so if you want to donate thousands of dollars, you can absolutely do that. And you can get a message that the Ukrainian army will print on arguably the missiles that you've provided anyway. And the idea is that they're raising money to help the war effort. Now, reading through the tweets on this, the responses, like so many Americans are like, yes, way to stick it to them. Where can I sign up? How can I donate money? Can you believe this? And then other people saying, what are you, crazy? Like, literally, they're going to use these to maybe shell eastern Ukraine. Like you're going to put your name on a missile that's going to be, or it's going to be blown up by Russia anyway. And by the way, you already paid for it, so they're raising money with. You're going to donate money to a GoFundMe so you can put a message on these missiles. The fundraising effort, it's raised so far. The Washington Post says it's raised $150,000 for the Ukrainian military. And it says there's all sorts of messages that people have donated, like from NATO with love, or London says hello, and remember the Alamo.
The disgusting thing is people don't realize that some of those are going to hit children. Some of those are going to hit, innocent people. And it's like they don't care. After their little sign is on it and after they get their whatever satisfaction they get out of that, it's out of their hands, and that could be killing innocent people. And they probably don't even care.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as they're Russian.
The most expensive item on the website is the naming rights to a Russian-made T-72 tank for $3,000. So you could put your name written on the side of that. And there's others. Here's just let me see if I can find there are more photos. There were more photos, but but you can see these different howitzer. This is a God bless the USA, glory to Ukraine. Here it is on a side of a rocket. Sign My Rocket is the GoFundMe. Now, imagine if this was done in reverse, how quickly GoFundMe would take this site down, right? Like you're literally promoting the killing of people, right? Like, isn't that some sort of a violation of terms of service? You would think.
Only if you're promoting killing the wrong people. You know what I mean? As long as you're promoting killing the right people, then all is good, I guess.
I mean, I think they're using the back end of GoFundMe. Here is the website. Send your message to the Russian invaders at signmyrocket.com. Oh, and you can use PayPal and Venmo. So you can use PayPal and Venmo. And PayPal and Venmo, by the way, have sent messages to YouTube channels. All sorts of different YouTube channels that are anti-war. And they've stopped allowing you to use Venmo and PayPal for your community and all of that. Like if you've got a community, if you're a YouTuber and otherwise, like PayPal will send you a note basically like, we're done. Based on your content, we're shutting you down. But it's okay. Sign My Rocket.
No,
PayPal.
I want to make sure
PayPal supported.
I want to make sure I fully understand this. So PayPal and Venmo will go after sex workers, and like even banks will like completely cut off their accounts for taking money, even for like having an OnlyFans or something like that. But so getting naked, bannable on Venmo and PayPal. Blowing people up, A-okay. I just want to make sure that I've got that. Okay.
It's totally fine with
know where our
PayPal and
morals are
Venmo.
now.
Yeah, totally fine with that. And I love, like, literally right on the front of the website, they make no mistake about what they're going to do. You have a chance to kill orcs with your text written on an artillery shell that will be fired at Russian soldiers. Like they're not hiding what this is.
Well, I'm looking at the source code of the page, and it says, we accept donations via PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Visa, MasterCard, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, meaning that Apple, PayPal, and Google Pay, and Visa, and MasterCard don't care about this. Like, they're going to, like Philip said, they're going to not accept payments for porn, but for murdering potentially innocent people, go for it.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I don't know, like, what sort of, policing, like Google Pay has out there and whatever, and Visa and MasterCard, right? But like we've absolutely seen that PayPal and Venmo have been proactive. Like they've been actively going after people who are anti-war, who are telling the truth about what's happening in this war. They've been actively shutting them down, canceling them. So they have a team that's devoted to like going after people like this. But they're not doing it here. I mean, talk about a double standard. But this is what's happening. You can sign your weapons that are going to be taking out soldiers, putting your name on it. One person in the article that was highlighted literally got this for his wife for an anniversary gift. Let's see if I can find that. Here it is. Colin Smith of Dallas purchased the slogan on this artillery shell for his wife for their anniversary. Colin and whatever his wife's name is, established 2021. Isn't that sweet, honey? I got you a missile that's going to be used to take out people. Do you like that? No, I don't, honey. C and Y, established in 20. He said she loved it. Though she's kind of now tired of me telling her about the war, but she did love it. I hope this shell went to a good cause. I hope it went to, continued shelling of villages and hurting people. Unbelievable.